There's so many amazing compressor plugins available today, but which ones are the very best ones created to date? Let's find out. Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about the very best compressor plugins that have ever been made. And so there's a couple of things that I need to share with you. Number one, this is not a sponsored video. This is just me sharing my opinion and having worked in the audio world for over 20 years as a producer, mix engineer, and mastering engineer. Number two is I use Pro Tools, and so if there's compressors available but not in the Pro Tools format, I won't be able to consider those. So let's get right into it. The first plugin I want to talk to you about today is the FG Stress. Now this is an emulation of the Empirical Labs Distressor hardware piece. And I can tell you, I use the actual hardware distressor. I actually bought one around 2007, and it absolutely changed my mixing. It changed my life in the audio world. It became instantly my go-to for snare. And I sold that piece, I think sometime around 2015, and I was so happy when Slate Digital released this plugin. And this sounds like what I remember the distressor to sound like. It gives me that instant sound that I used to get on snare, on vocal. The distressor sounds like no other plugin that I can think of. It has so much character. There's so much you can do. Right down here, if you just click on Distortion 2 or Distortion 3, it gives you different harmonic saturation modes. And it just has this lovely way that it kind of saturates anything that you put through it. That's why I love it for snare. Snares love a little harmonic distortion. I usually use the Distortion 2 setting for snare. And I love that unlike the hardware distressor, you have a mix knob here. So you can really crush things and then dial it back and do some parallel compression. This is just an amazing piece. Adds such color to your mix. Again, my favorite use for it is snare, but also sounds amazing on vocal. It can really bring your vocal forward and give it more of a gritty sound if you drive it hard enough. And so I think this is one of the best plugins ever made. I know that there's other distressor plugins out there, but this was one of the first ones to come out. And to me, this sounds like the hardware distressor that I used to own. And it's so awesome now to have it in the box and be able to use it on multiple channels and not just one like I used to have to when I owned one distressor. The next plugin I want to talk about is the Universal Audio 1176. Now this is the Rev A. This is the newest version that they have of this. Again, I have owned hardware 1176 units. That's another piece that absolutely changed my life. I remember hearing a vocal going through my hardware 1176 several years ago, the first time that I owned one and got to hear it in my own studio. And it's a game changer. It does something special to the vocal, especially when you compress hard. Now, a lot of compressors, especially cheaper compressors, fall apart when you start to push them hard. Not so with the 1176. This actually shines when you really start to push it hard. I would say even past 10 dB, between 10 dB and 20 dB is really the sweet spot for vocal on this. Somewhere in that range, it really pushes the vocal forward in a mix. And that's what I discovered that day that I first tried the hardware unit was, oh, this is that radio forward sound that I've wanted to get and just didn't know how to get. This, to me, is really the sound of radio, especially for vocals. This is absolutely a go-to for me for vocals. Pretty much every lead vocal in the mixes that I do is going through this unit. And as a part of the Universal Audio plugins, they do have the blackface version of the 1176, and which I enjoy, and they have an AE version, which I also enjoy. But this is my favorite. This definitely has the most saturation, the most character, and it reminds me of the sound of the 1176 piece that I used to own, and it gives me the same feeling when I run vocals through it. So this is an absolute go-to for vocals, but you can use it on drum bus. I sometimes will use it on a parallel drum bus. Also, you can definitely use it on bass guitar. Maybe the blackface is better for bass guitar, but this one can be great on bass guitars too, especially if you want it to have a little more grit. And also, I occasionally use this on snare, but just absolutely the best plug-in compressor, in my opinion, for vocals. And I've definitely tried some of the other 1176 plugins out there, but to me, this is the absolute best one. I auditioned several when I was going to make a purchase for 1176 plugin, and this is the one that stood out to me. This is the one that to me sounds like the hardware. The next plugin I want to talk about is the Slate Digital MJUC. Now, this is based off the legendary OTT plugin that started in Ableton Live, and it became such a popular plugin that they made a standalone version of it. And I owned the standalone version of it for years, still do, which is actually a free plugin that you can go and download, the OTT. And the MJUC just took the OTT sound and took it further. There's just so much more that you can do with the MJUC. It gives you that OTT sound, but there's so much more that you can do. If you look up here and if you switch from easy to advanced, there's just so much inside of this plugin. This top dial here adjusts your downward compression, and then this one adjusts your upward compression, and you can really do some deep editing inside of this plugin. But it gives you that same sound that the OTT does, but you just can do so much more with it. So this is very different from the first two plugins that I've talked about. This can just do some unusual things, especially with the upward compression. My favorite things to use the OTT on would be mix bus at light settings. If you turn this amount down at light settings, this can be just killer on mix bus. It can really tighten up the lows and add some excitement to your mixes. But also, I think this is so often used by electronic producers. So if you're into electronic music, this is an absolute must-have. At least get the OTT. But the MJUC takes it even farther, and you can just do so much as far as like if you're going for that more aggressive EDM sound, this is it. This will really excite anything that you put through it. And they got a lot of great presets inside the MJUC. You can just click here on this preset folder, and it gives you so many great presets that you can use. But again, this is, to me, one of the best all-time compressor plugins ever made. This is different than the other two plugins. It can do different things that no other plugin, no other compressor plugin that I own can do, and it's definitely one of the best ever made. The next plugin I want to talk about is another plugin from Slate Digital, and this is the FG Moo. Now this thing sounds absolutely amazing. This is based on a variable Moo compressor like the Manley variable Moo. And this also just has a unique sound and does something different than any other compressor plugin that I own does. It has just this nice creamy sound. For me, it's go-to for acoustic guitars. This thing just shines on acoustic guitars. It gives it such a nice coloration, smooths out those acoustic dynamics like no other compressor plugin I have, and it's just got this creamy, buttery sound. Also, this is awesome on mix bus, particularly for slower tempo songs, or even maybe medium tempo songs, or songs that don't have a ton of stuff going on. I don't really use it for up tempo songs. I use other compressors for that. But for slower tempo songs or medium tempo songs, this absolutely kills on the mix bus. It can just glue those mixes together like nothing else. This is a great plugin, one of my absolute favorites, and I think it's one of the best compressor plugins ever made. The next plugin I want to talk about is the Klanghelm MJUC. This has been out for several years, and it's still one of the absolute best compressor plugins ever made. This is also based on a variable Mu design. And if you're serious about mixing, you should absolutely have a variable Mu compressor because they just sound different. They do different things. They have a different character. And so this plugin, they actually spent 2 years in research and development before they put it out. And you can really hear it in this plugin. One of the awesome things about it is it's really 3 variable Mu compressors in one. You have the MK1, you have MK2 here, and MK3. They all have a little bit different character. I love MK1 and MK3 for vocals. MK2 has a little bit of different sound. I love to try all of them on acoustic guitars. Sometimes they just are perfect for acoustic guitars. Also, just putting them on mix bus can really do the trick. And so they have some great settings in here to start with the preset. A lot of people love this on drum bus. I definitely use it for that occasionally. But I think my favorite use for this is going to be vocals, bass guitars, and mix bus. Now this is a very colored plugin. You can put it on a source and just turn the compression off and it has a great sound to it, even just running signal through it. So this is a great color compressor, and I think it's one of the best plugins ever made. The next plugin that I want to talk about is the Kit Plugins Core Compressor. Now this is the new kit on the block. This is a relatively new compressor, and the reason that it made this list for me is because it does something that no other compressor that I own does. It definitely has a great sound. You can pretty much use it as a workhorse on various sources. You can use it on vocals. It has this mix knob, so it's great on drum bus. This can be a great parallel drum bus compressor. But the thing that I love about this the most is this body setting right here. Now I believe this is a post-compression EQ, and it just has such a warm sound. I love the way this body setting can sound on your mix bus, but also on vocals, on drums. It just has this magical warmth to it. And so this is the reason for me why it made the list, is because for me, compression is not just about controlling dynamics, but it's about the character that it can impart to your sound. And this body is just really well done. I don't know exactly what they did with that, but it can just really add warmth to your signal without adding mud. So I find myself using this if I just need a little more warmth on the signal that I'm sending it through, on the mix bus, on a bass guitar, on a vocal. This is my go-to for that because it has just a great warmth. This body can add such nice warmth without adding mud. So that's why this is on my list, because it does something that no other compressor does. I think it's a great compressor, and they did a great job with this. The next plugin I want to talk about is the SPL Transient Designer. Now, those of us that remember when the hardware Transient Designer came out, it was such a game changer because it allows you, as the name suggests, to adjust the transients of the source. So with this attack and the sustain knob, you can actually add more attack to the transient. You can add more sustain to the transient. And this is just a game changer on drums. You can do so much with this as far as just really adding more attack to your drums or more sustain to your room mics, or even if you got too much room, you can take a little bit of that sustain off. A lot of my audio engineer friends just love this on drums, but especially toms. But this is just a plugin, again, a compressor plugin that does something that the other ones don't do, as far as you can actually affect and change your transients with this plugin. And I love, again, that in the plugin version, you have the wet dry knob, so you can really do some creative things with your transients. This plugin is just so helpful if you're doing a lot of aggressive sounding music, aggressive sounding drums, rock music, electronic music. This can really just help you take things to the next level. The last plugin on this list, and this is kind of a classic plugin, but still, again, this is on the list because it does something that the other plugins on the list don't do. This is a multi-band compressor plugin by Waves. This is the Waves C4 multi-band parametric processor. This is an awesome compressor. I love using this sometimes on vocals if I have a problematic area in the vocals that I just want to compress a certain area of the vocals. This can be great for that. But I think I'm most commonly using this on the mix bus. Now I'll throw this on the mix bus and just try it. And I'm usually using the Russo Night Watchman mastering setting. And so a lot of times at getting close to the end of the mix, I'll throw this on mix bus and just see if it's actually gluing the mix together. This plugin can glue a mix together in such a pleasing way. I would say pretty much every genre it can work on. I like to throw it on at the end of a mix, and I'm usually using the Russo Night Watchman mastering setting. And sometimes it's just perfect for the mix and just kind of subtly gluing it all together, tightening up the lows, and it does something very special. So to me, those are the absolute best compressor plugins that we have available to us right now. So if you have a go-to compressor that you use that didn't make this list, let me know about it, and who knows, it could end up in a future video of mine. So if you got some value out of this video, be sure to like this video and also subscribe to this channel and turn on that bell for notifications, because that'll let you know when my next videos come out. Also, I do have some plugin discount links inside the description of this video, and if you want to check my other best of videos, you can check those out right here. Thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day.